Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Make It Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Barkley.
And I'm your host, Nicholas Buggs, and I am extremely happy to be here because obviously Chris is extremely happy to be here. You know, I've commented on this before. When Chris comes out with the hello, and his face lights up like that, man, you can't help but get excited. I'm in. I'm all in, bro. You got me.
I know that I probably drive PB crazy with this because he spent a life in audio, and every time I say hello really loud, I probably clip the mic,
Yeah.
right? That's probably clips. And he's like, oh, you f***ed the audio right there. You f***ed the audio.
Right. What are you doing?
What are you doing? But I can't help it. Like you said, it's been a good week. It's been a fast week.
Yeah, this is true.
It's really gone by quickly. It's been a great week, and I'm pumped to be here with our guest, the one and only documentarian extraordinaire, Joe Ligo. Joe, what's up?
Hey, good to be here, guys.
Likewise, man. So glad to have you. We're going to have fun today, talk about a lot of cars, a lot of documentary, a lot of film stuff. It's going to be a good mix of things we have prepared as we've spent the week in the world of Joe Ligo. I'm pronouncing your last name right, correct? That's Ligo, right?
Yeah, you got it. You got it right. You're one of the
exactly.
few. So
Lego, is it?
See?
Well, because,
it's
Nick
Ligo. You're off
wants
to a
it to
good
be
start.
Lego.
Yeah, I wanted it to be Lego, like in the worst way, obviously, from my background. But
Yeah, but it's
like Lego works. We're gonna say it right.
There you go. And welcome, PB. Welcome to the show. Thank you, producer Papa Bear, for joining
Glad
us
to be
on
here.
yet another podcasting journey and supporting us along the way. And thank you to the audience for supporting us week after week. The response to all the episodes in the last month have been just sort of through the roof, amazing, and so much cool stuff on the way. So if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, share this podcast with your friends and family. If you're listening to this on Apple or Spotify, do the same thing, 5-star review, make sure you subscribe, follow the show. And if you are just listening, it's a lot more fun on video. Almost everything is.
Yeah, you got that right. You got that right.
Almost everything. Okay.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Nick, I know you got some housekeeping. Drop some announcements on us.
Yeah, man. I just again, you're getting to this. I guess it's every year, all year. It's festival season. That's what it seems like.
Yeah.
But I know for us, it's like there's that fall festival season. It's like Fayetteville, Nashville, and then now for
Memphis.
Memphis, Defy. But last year was my first time at the PG County Film Festival, the PG Film Festival up here in Maryland near me. That was the 3rd annual. This year will be the 4th annual. Had a great time. Actually took my son last year. They did a great job. There's a lot of engagement. You know, we got to sit and talk with each other at the festival, which was awesome.
Heck yeah.
And I actually went to an acting class, which was kind of cool. It was good to be a part of that, and got to see some local films, which was very nice. So this year I'm going again. It's September 26th through October 4th. And I think they'll have a portion of it at Bowie State University, which is cool, representing the local school there, the local university, and bringing the students out, which they did last year as well. So it's going to be fun. I'm happy to support them. And I've got to have something special going on if I'm not going to go to NAF.
Yep.
But they've pulled
Can't say
me
NAF.
in. Yeah, I know. Yeah, tell me about that.
You got to say Nash Film.
Nash
Because
Film.
yeah, because
That's
apparently NAF is a curse word in the UK.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Look at that. I did not know that.
Yeah,
Well,
I've been
look at
saying
that. So
all these years, and I got my hand slapped recently by executive director Jason Paget and the rest of the board.
It wasn't by somebody in the UK. They were like,
no. But they have been offended by me for years.
For years, and you didn't even know. They've been talking behind your back. Okay, so
Anyway,
Nash
continue.
Film. Yeah, so Nash Film. So anyway, I'm doing my best to support our local film festivals here. I think Wheaton will be in November, so I'm going to check them out as well, and then
Shout out to
Hagerstown next year. So yeah, just trying to be a part of the community much more.
What are
So
the dates?
I'm happy to make that happen. So again, PG Film Festival will be September 26th through October 4th.
Nick, thank you so much for the update for the. Is this a PG County Festival or just PG Festival?
Yeah, it's the PG Film Festival, but they also call it the PG County Film Festival because it's Prince George's County Film Festival.
Love it. And that's up in Maryland. We'll check that out. Shout out to that film festival. And I think now is as good of time as ever to hop into some Story is King. Joe, are you ready?
I'm ready. Yes, sir.
All right, let's do it, Joe. Joe, what should we know you for?
Well, most recently, I've been the producer director of a new documentary series that was just on public television and is now on streaming in YouTube called The Last Independent Automaker.
Mm.
So it's a six-part series of half-hour episodes that tells the story of the rise and fall of American Motors Corporation. So I guess the easiest cultural connection there is if you've seen Wayne's World, the Mirthmobile is an AMC Pacer. Actually, it's what there it is right. That's not
All
the
right. So for
actual
those listening,
Mirthmobile.
There it
he's
is.
actually showing that pacer right now on the
Yeah.
screen.
That's
Now
right.
that's not the actual Wayne's World Pacer, but that's one we filmed for
Yeah.
the documentary. And so American Motors Corporation was an automobile manufacturer that was here in the United States from 1954 to 1987. And so we tell the story of the creation, the rise, and the fall of this company based on, I think, either 49 or 50 interviews, depending on how you count it. We interviewed about 50 people, and about 35 of those were former employees, everything from folks who
Wow.
worked on the assembly line all the way up to former CEOs and everyone in between, designers, engineers, secretaries. And not everybody made it into the final cut, but all of their stories helped inform what we included in the script and the story we crafted. So the Last Independent Automaker came out on I want to say May 1st on
Okay.
public television stations around the country. And it's available to watch now on the PBS streaming app, which is free. And then also it's on YouTube. If you look up the Last Independent Automaker, our YouTube channel is called Auto Moments. So if you look
Yeah.
for Auto Moments, you'll find all 6 episodes there as well. And so it's been really exciting. It was a really fun project, and the response has been really great. And there's
I loved
still
it.
PBS stations around the country that are airing it intermittently. They'll have access to that program for 2 years, so you'll see it pop up on your
Yeah.
local PBS station too.
Very cool.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
the channel's dope. I thought the whole thing was cool. And here's the thing, guys, you don't have to be in love with cars or obsessed with cars to actually enjoy the documentary. You just have to enjoy learning things you didn't know before, and that's what you're going to get from it. I thought it was super cool. One of the fascinating things about the story that is hinted at and mentioned maybe once or twice throughout sort of your work with AMC, by the way, that you've done over many years, is that these cars can sometimes be a punchline. And at the time, they just weren't. And I don't know how they got to a place where we sort of poke fun at them.
Yeah,
All of the shapes and designs that were unique and the way they built the cars were really solid. It all came from this really good place. It all came from a place of let's solve a real human problem.
You talking about the
yeah,
Gremlin?
it's
I'm talking about all of them. There's a lot of them. The Gremlin does
yeah,
get made fun of. The Pacer gets
it's
made fun of. It's a lot of
Yeah.
yeah.
it's funny because the same thing happens with film. A person creates a thing and puts it out there, but once it's out in the world, you can't predict how the culture is going to interpret or reinterpret that. And it's funny, is same with movies. You have certain movies come out that are huge hit when they come out, and then 10 years go by and people look back and like, man, I can't believe we really thought that was a good movie. Like,
Yeah.
or people go back and they're like, man, I can't believe we all slept on that. That was actually a great movie. And so
Yeah.
there's
Right. Big
always these,
Lebowski is a great example of that.
right, these cultural reevaluations where I just this year, my co-producer Jim Needle and I joke about this all the time. Just last year, he told me to watch the movie Heat by Michael Mann,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'd never seen it before, never heard of it. And I was like, oh my gosh, this movie's amazing. How's nobody talked about this? And so the same thing happens.
Oh
This,
no! I mean, Heat is a phenomenal movie, and it's been talked about. I'm like, where you been, man?
right. And
Yeah.
so I think that was probably on me for not being culturally aware. But I think the same thing happens with cars. So these cars come out, and in episode 4 we talk about the Pacer. The Pacer came out. It was a huge hit. It
Yeah.
was their best-selling new product ever, and it culturally had this moment where everything else in Detroit was a big box-shaped
Mhm.
sedan, and here comes
Right.
this
Right.
spaceship-looking thing. But then within 2 years, between the quality issues they had and fuel economy issues they had, and
That was the big one.
just the styling being kind of polarizing, the Pacer went from being this red hot success to kind of this boat anchor that, dragged the company down. And I think get back to your main question of how did these cars become a punchline, cars like the Gremlin and the Pacer, I think it really happened in the 1980s and 90s when these cars were they were 10 years old. They were showing up on used car lots. They were worn out, mistreated, and they were $400 cars that a high school kid would buy. That's when they became punchlines. When they were new, they're reasonable cars that people bought and drove and generally liked. But it's that 10 years later, the environment is radically different. The difference between the car market, 1975, 1985 is radically different. And you can imagine if you're a high school kid driving a lime green Gremlin in the early 90s, that's not as cool as it was in 1972 when that car was brand new, And so I think some of that evaluation comes with some of those punchlines kind of come with the fact that these cars for a long period of time were just seen as cheap used cars you get on a used car lot. And the funny thing is now, before our documentary ever came along, you were starting to see prices for AMC cars on the collector's market were going back up because people were realizing, oh, these are something special here. And so the data shows, if you look at Hagerty Classic Car Insurance, they track all these values and data and stuff. And they say, yeah, AMC cars are, at least in the pricing data, reflects that they're becoming more collectible. And so I think people are realizing
when
how
they've
special
been
they were.
taken care of.
Yes.
That's the key.
Yes. Yeah. Boy, there's a lot of rough ones out there. You're right.
Yeah,
the survivors are nice ones.
Yeah, because when you look at them brand new, which you get to see a lot of in your work, it's like, oh, the paint's really nice, the fittings are super nice, lots of glass. The glass is hardcore. I think one guy in something I watched 2 years this week, one guy was like, yeah, it rolled 5 times down a hill and it was still good. And I'm like, cars just don't do that anymore. Like, that's good. So now tell me if I'm wrong about this. There is something you're working on now that you can only tease.
Yeah. So we're in the process of developing a new project, probably a shorter documentary, hopefully still in the automotive realm. But this one's going to be a little bit different. Instead of the sort of cradle to grave history that we did with American Motors, this is a project that's going to hone in on one car that was supposed to be this fantastic world-beating car and instead ended up being kind of a financial mess and never really getting the wings off the ground. And so it's this kind of wonderful what could have been kind of story. But we're in the process of...
I always think about the Homer Simpson car when somebody describes a car that way.
Yes, right. It's a little bit prettier than that, but it is a fun story. We're developing that now, so we can't say too much about it, but I'm really looking forward to that. Hopefully we'll get all the paperwork side of it done so we can actually get to making that documentary. But it's funny you mentioned the Simpsons car. I do love that episode with the Homer.
The Homer, exactly. The Homer. That's it's an all-timer. And I love the fact that you could just bring that up and people know exactly what you're talking about. That's how good of an episode it was. Talk to us about like where you were born.
Sure. I grew up in Pennsylvania. I grew up in Western Pennsylvania, which is surprisingly, PA has a pretty robust car culture. I didn't grow up around cars, but as I grew older, I began to realize that it's really kind of a special place. There's a lot of collectors, a lot of mechanics, a lot of people who are involved in the hobby. And so, I grew up in a family that was not a super car, cars were appliances to us, but I guess my way of rebelling is that I got into cars, right? I wanted to get into the hobby. And so I was fascinated by the history of them and, never looked back.
Did that start in high school?
With that, by the way, too, Nick. Well, go ahead. Yeah.
I was just wondering, did that start in high school, your love of cars? Like, when did that really kick in?
Yeah, actually, let me grab a book off my bookshelf here.
See? Okay, folks, he's grabbing a book. He's reaching down.
Yep.
This is a great example of how your local library can inspire you. And no, I'm not being paid to say it, but
for those listening, he's holding up a book,
a public service announcement.
This is a coffee table book called American Motors.
The Last Independent. So that's a book by Patrick Foster, who actually ended up being a co-producer, and as he was also interviewed for a documentary.
Awesome.
So Pat's a great friend of mine, and I started out in high school. I went to my high school library and said, I want to give me some books about cars. Give me some books about AMC cars or whatever, because I didn't know anything. And sure, I got this book. And years later, I had the chance to actually meet Pat, and we became friends. And then I said, hey, Pat, do you think we could turn your book into a documentary? And so,
How
yeah, there
cool
it
is that? Full
That is
circle.
cool.
so
That is
yeah,
cool.
so
I don't think I
Pat,
knew that little factoid right there. That's good.
yeah, so Pat is the gentleman who you see in our documentary, who kind of runs throughout as the historian kind of expert on the subject. And so we're very lucky to work with him. He has a great collection of AMC photographs that we used in the series, and also is just an encyclopedia of knowledge. He knew so many different AMC people because he's been writing about this company for 30 plus years. And so he interviewed a lot of people just on like a cassette recorder, and has all these notes and wrote all these books. So he's the real expert. We were extremely lucky to be able to work with him.
I love
That's
that.
awesome.
What I
Man.
was
How many
saying, Nick,
that's a lot of years, man, between those times. But yeah, go ahead, Chris.
No, I was just telling you, Nick, just to put a period on what I was saying to you, is that I always get frustrated and have my entire life when people reduce cars to an appliance, like Joe was saying, where it's like, oh, it just gets you from A to B. Why do you care about like the way it looks or its performance? And I literally take it as an ad hominem attack. It's like, oh, you're against design. You're against human
See,
imagination.
there's Chris.
You're
That's what
against,
he does.
you're against creativity. You're against greatness. You know what you have? You have the code of death.
There
Sorry,
you go.
guys like me and Joe, we have the code of life. We want
That's
to
Chris
live.
right there. So if you guys don't know, like if you don't agree with Chris, or he doesn't, let's say no, sorry. If Chris doesn't agree with you, he will attack your humanity. That's what it is. He'll attack everything about you. Like, oh, you're against life. That's what you are. I'm like, what? I never said that.
Right. Well, I gotta say, it changed talking to people who
I think this
design
guy
and
knows me or something. Yeah.
talking to people who design and engineer and build cars changed my outlook on them. Interviewing all these people, as an enthusiast, I think people who drive cars, love cars, whatever, we have a lot of strong opinions.
Mhm.
And why'd they do this? This is so dumb. This car's better than that car. My car's better than your car. All that, but actually talking to the people who design them, and their job is to go to work and draw and sculpt and engineer these vehicles and assemble these vehicles. I started to have a lot more respect for how difficult of an industry this is. I mean, it's easy for me as the end consumer to sit here and be like, oh, this car is so stupid, or this car, why didn't they do this way? And to actually talk to the people who design and build them for a living, you realize this is a really hard job. And, every step of the way takes different skills and different abilities. And, I've never built anything like that in my life. So it really humbled me to interview these people and hear just about how much work goes into building a car. It's really fascinating. And to talk to somebody, one of the gentlemen we interviewed, Vince Gerace, was an interior designer for
Who
cars.
just passed away this week, I believe.
Yes.
Rest
I'm
in peace,
heartbroken.
Vince Gerace.
Yes,
Shout out to his family.
We just lost Vince. He was a fantastic gentleman, such a good friend to me, helped connect us with so many people, and was a tireless advocate for our documentary. When it seemed like we would never get done, he was always there. He was always calling to check in, always telling other people about us. And so Vince was interior designer on the Jeep Cherokee, which sold 17 million copies. And can you imagine? It's
Right.
so hard for me to wrap my head around the idea of designing something that 17 million copies were made of. I mean, what a strange thing to walk down the street and to see one and say, I designed that. I can't even imagine
amazing.
that. I get excited. I get excited if I get 17,000 views on a video or something.
Right.
Here's Vince, 17 million, and it's just incredible. It's some of these guys
the way
are.
that Chris Nolan feels sneaking into a theater or watches on movie.
Do you think he does that? I think he does that.
Yeah, it must be something similar to. Must be similar to that, right? To just know that millions of people are watching you, and
no, he doesn't do that.
But they don't know
you.
But they don't know you're in the theater.
No. He just goes to his tower and he dives right into the dollar bills. That's what he does.
Scrooge McDuck style. He's just Scrooge
Exactly.
McDuck style. Yeah, because it's like if you design a car and like all these people are buying, or you design anything and people, let's say like what Joe said, like 17 million people have it, right? But you're not famous. Like you're not like Brad Pitt. You're not
Right.
so you're just walking around watching people use the thing you designed in the real world. It's quite a gift actually. Like most people who make something don't get an honest look at how their product is being consumed because they're
Yeah.
famous.
Right. No, that's really true. It'd be so strange to, like I said, to be able to have done something like that and then have no idea that, well, even the people who worked on the assembly line. I just went to a giant car show in Kenosha, which is where AMC's factory used to be. And right, old guys would take me aside and say, "Oh, well, the cars used to come out that side of the building there, and I'd drive them around here, and my job was to put the wheels on, and I would do that over there." And it's just fascinating to me, as the only thing I have to do with the auto industry is be the end consumer. I just get to drive the cars. But to talk to a person that was their job day in, day out to build them, that was really neat. It was really cool. And, Vince sadly is just one of several people who've passed away since we interviewed them. And I think that was a big motivating force when we started this project. It's embarrassing to say we started it back in 2016.
That's not embarrassing.
That was a big motivating force. The first thing we did was try and gather as many interviews as we could, because we knew that these folks would not be around forever. Yeah. And, I think up to 8 people now that we've interviewed have since passed away. And, it means a lot to us to be able to save their memories. People like Vince, people like Jerry Myers, who was one of the CEOs we interviewed, so many people who, I think of the one guy we interviewed, you see him in episode 1, Daniel Wojciechowicz. He was the Polish guy who started working
when he was
17 years. Yeah, he was 17 years old in 1951. He started working on the assembly line, and he was 95 when we interviewed him.
Wow,
which is just crazy. So he passed away sadly, but his family told us they're so thankful that we captured those stories with him. I mean, what a blessing to be able to do.
What
that.
a life. Yeah.
And Chris, not only did you guys get that experience that they talked about, just working on an assembly line, but one of the cool things that I really liked about the documentary is that I actually got context. So like you mentioned the idea of like, why'd you do that with the car? What was the point of that? Everything had context. They might have been competing with 3 other major brands who were doing something similar, or they were doing something and this brand, let's say AMC, want to do something completely different. So yeah, it seems crazy now, but they needed to do something to differentiate, or they needed to do something similar. Like there are no accidents here, right? It's really, there's a lot of context to everything that was done, which is also really cool. And when you learn more about that, you definitely get a different appreciation for what they've done.
Well,
now, Joe, go ahead, Joe.
I was going to say, thank you so much, Nick, for noticing that, because that's one thing our team worked really hard on in the script and in the presentation, was to make this a story that you don't have to be a car nut to follow. The rule was, would my mom watch this and get it? And I've been very gratified to hear from viewers that they feel the same way, and have people say like, oh, I told my friends to watch it and they don't even like cars. That means a lot to me to hear that, because it's really a great story. Just the human element of it, the human drama of it is what, I love cars, but I stayed and saw the thing through to the end because I got attached to the human story.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I'm so glad it's out. I'm glad people will get a chance to watch this, and maybe even more so after this episode. Is it true that you grew up on a farm, and if so, can you describe your household in 3 words?
I did grow up on a farm. I'm trying to think of just 3 words, but I guess I'll just say the 3 words would be lots of work.
Yeah. It sounds about right.
I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
But no, I was very lucky to grow up on a farm. There was a lot of work to do, as always, but I think that created a good foundation for me to, kind of build a work ethic to be able to survive in an industry that also requires a lot of hard work, a different kind of work, but the same kind of dedication. And, I think to me, sometimes the hardest day on the job, filming something, I think, well, at least I'm not working on the farm, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, and that maybe isn't fair. I still like working on the farm. I was actually just at my parents this weekend helping them bale hay. But there are times where I think, the hardest day on a film set, I'm like, well, I could be shoveling manure, so this is pretty good.
Yeah, and documentaries in particular are tougher in post, right? Or would you disagree with that?
This one was. I can't speak for every project, but this one, oh my gosh, yeah, post was. I think we were so afraid of missing something. We're so afraid of a story getting away that we shot so many interviews that post was really complicated for us because there was so much stuff we had to leave out, and then figuring out, oh, well, we need to put this, but how do we include this? But we're running out of time, and you're constantly slamming up against the because this was going to be aired on television. So we had a time barrier that we could not cross. Each episode's 28 minutes. And so there were some episodes where it was just brutal, the number of cuts we had to make. But I'm pleased with the final product. I think that it forced me to economize with my story. And, we had original cuts that were 42 minutes, 45 minutes, 38 minutes. And figuring out how to get 15 minutes out, I think really helps the story move forward. And, I think it's rare that there was a situation where I cut something that looking back, I regret.
He started in 2016, Chris, and he's been in post since 2017. So, it's been tough.
Not quite. We started posting around 2022, 2023, we'll say. So, but yes, because it was the first few years were on and off. It was just a nights and weekends kind of thing. And then we kind of finally had a moment around 2022 where I just finally said, I'm like, if I don't work on this full time, it'll never get done. I'm going to wake up one morning and I'm going to be 50 years old and I won't have finished it. And so we just kind of took the plunge, and this became for me at least, became my full-time job. And my two co-producers who still had day jobs, but they stepped up and really helped me out on the completion of it.
A shout out to them. A shout out to Denise Green, great documentarian, friend of the pod, former guest, who said in documentary, however long it takes you to shoot it, double that in post for documentary, which is the inverse, I would say, in a feature film normally, or a short film for that matter. Let's wrap this Story is King segment up with this. What piece of advice do you live by? Or what's a piece of advice you live by?
For filmmaking in general, I would say, I'd say it's like making maple syrup. You need 40 gallons of sap to make, a gallon of syrup. And I'd say that's probably definitely true for documentary. I don't know if that's true for features, but that was something when I worked on a show, a television program previous to this. I always had to explain when we were filming something. I had to explain to the person we were filming and interviewing and stuff. They're like, "Man, you're going to be here all day." I'm like, "Oh, it's like syrup. You get 40 to 1, And that always really resonated with people when I explained why we needed to film 12 different angles of whatever we were shooting for that day.
Yeah, getting the coverage.
It can get really sticky.
Yeah.
You're right. Right. So it's funny. I worked on a TV show about farming and stories about farmers. And, they're like, why do you need to film me nailing this fence post 12 different times? I'm like, well, see, we're going to do cutaways and close-ups, whatever. So I always I pulled out the syrup story, and that always worked.
Yeah.
PB,
I like it.
I want to tell you, Papa Bear, how proud I am of you.
Yeah.
Very proud of you. Yeah, super proud, because earlier in this segment, Joe mentioned his producing partner. I think his name was something. What was first name? Last name Needles. What's his first name?
Needle.
Joe?
Yeah,
Jim
Needle.
Almost said Joe Needle. Yeah, it's Jim Needles. And I just knew you were going to say, "What was he needling you?" Because you said, Joe, that he made you laugh. And it's like, oh, here it comes. Here it comes. PB is going to make a needling you joke, and you didn't do it. Proud of you, man.
So
Wait,
I wish
it for later.
I've got something else in the
Yeah, you got
Stuck
some
in
other,
the pipe.
you got some jokes for us.
Hey,
Nick.
Chris, he's got something else in the haystack.
It's not a needle.
I was gonna say that I owe a lot of my film education to Jim, because he'll be like, "Oh my God, you haven't seen this yet, or you haven't seen that yet," and so there's lots of instances where he gets upset at me because he's the real movie buff, and so not just Heat, but
No,
he has me
anything.
watching all the Michael Mann movies. He has me going back and watching I had like a Tom Cruise weekend the other week where I was watching. He's like, tell me, oh, you need to watch Mission Impossible 1, and then so huge thanks
that.
to Jim.
Shout out to Jim Needles.
Singular Needle.
Oh, shout out to Jim Needle.
Yeah.
Shout out to Jim Needle, and shout out to Needles, California, the hottest place in America. That's a fun fact if you ever like in a bar doing trivia. Hottest place in America is called Needles, California. It sits right between Arizona and California. I was there one time, and I thought, if I don't get out of here, I'm gonna die.
I'm gonna die.
Right.
Yeah, like I'm not gonna like if we run out of gas here, this is it. Joe, when I tell you there is nothing in Needles, California, it's just dust and lizards. That's it. Like, so you got to get out of there. Once you get in, you got to get out. Nick, drop an audience poll on us, brother.
Oh yeah, let's do it, man. This is a fun one. It's of course cars, right? So, and we're gonna go to the 60s, and we're gonna ask the question: what is the most iconic car of the 1960s? And we have 4 options here. Okay. Option number 1, Corvette Stingray. Option number 2, the Shelby GT500. Option number 3, the Pontiac GTO. And option number 4, Dodge Charger. I think that's 67.
Ooh.
Muscle cars.
So now I'm gonna.
What are the results, Nick?
Let's go with the results. All right. So number 1, Corvette Stingray at actually 28%. Okay. Right. Number 2, Pontiac GTO at 27%. We've got the Dodge Charger coming in at 26%.
I can't believe that one didn't
win. Right, Shelby GT500 at 19%.
I'll tell you why I'm surprised the Charger didn't win, Nick, and it's because it's a popular car now.
Right.
Well, you're right. And I was going to ask, so those are the numbers, okay? And I was actually curious about that as well because of, things like Fast and the Furious. Right. Does that start to change? I mean, you remember it's close. I mean, you're talking about Corvette Stingray got 28% versus Pontiac GTO and Charger were 1% and 2% behind it.
1% off. Yeah.
Yeah, this is very, very close. But what do you think, Joe? Out of those 4, which one would you have picked as the number 1 most iconic from the 1960s?
Yeah, I'm not picking my favorite, but as most iconic, I'd say GTO would have been my pick. I think if you just had the basic Mustang, just Ford Mustang, not the Shelby or whatever, I think GTO or Mustang would be a toss-up. But definitely, I think it's hard. As somebody who didn't live for the 60s, it was hard for me to understand how big of a deal the GTO was until I really started into the research for this project. And just realizing how much of a cultural phenomenon it was, it's incredible. I didn't realize that.
And what was it that really brought it to the top like that? Like, I mean, again,
that's what I was going to ask PB. So yeah, we'll ask you both.
Okay, let's go PB first. Then you want to go PB?
Well,
PB, you were a teenager, I think, during some of this, potentially, or young teen. Yeah. Were any of these your dream car?
I did live through the 60s, and there was talk only about the Mustang. The Mustang was like, when it came out, everybody stopped talking about all the other cars. And my older cousin had one, and it was the car that everybody wanted. So, but I think was it 63 or 64, and Mustang was the car of that decade, I think, in my opinion.
Okay.
Joe, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's right. Yeah, Mustang definitely, but as far as the GTO being maybe number 2 on that list, I just think culturally it grabbed onto a moment where as we talk about in episode 2 of our documentary, young people were buying cars. The baby boomers were becoming a huge market force culturally, and they wanted hot cars, fast cars, cool cars. And maybe it's just because GTO was a easy to rhyme with stuff, right? I mean, the Beach Boys wrote a song about the GTO. There were songs, there were commercials, there were TV shows, and so it just sort of captured the zeitgeist along with the Mustang and other muscle cars. But GTO especially because it was easy to rhyme. Mustang's harder to rhyme, and so I think that was
We
part
had
of
Mustang
it.
Sally.
Right, but I think
yeah.
I think it captured a moment, and I think that's something sadly you don't see with teens and cars these days. And I think part of it, again, in another one of the episodes of the documentary, one of the factory workers we interviewed said, I got a job at the plant, straight out of high school, no college education, was making $3 an hour, and within a year or two, he paid cash for a brand new car, a brand new sports car.
Yeah.
Wow.
And nowadays, I don't think a high school kid could find a job straight out of high school and pay cash for a new car. I don't think you could buy a Kia Soul and pay cash for it, let alone a Mustang or a Javelin or a GTO. I mean, imagine a 19-year-old. A 19-year-old works a factory job and makes enough money to pay cash for a new car. It's
unheard of.
You couldn't pay cash for a Mitsubishi Mirage. It's so sad.
Yeah. And I think there's a different appreciation, Chris.
True.
Like you talked about your appreciation for cars, but I think there's also, it's either the car that you have an appreciation for is either an old car or it's a new car that you can't afford. Right. Because you feel like that's the separation between care, design, right? Like everything in the middle is a commodity. Like everything else is just, it is to get you from here to there, and they change them all the time, or they're, like that. They're hard to fix because they're supposed to break down in 2 years, right? The planned obsolescence.
Some of them,
so it's like that's why I think people gravitate to the older cars, and you gravitate to things that are more expensive because that's where the care is. And I think that there was a time where that separation wasn't so significant, and I think that there were places in the U.S., right, like Detroit, cars meant something different because everybody, in a 30 block radius probably worked at the factory, and they knew each other, and they were competing with another big brand. So like there was just, it was built into your culture. Yeah, because you either were part of something or you were trying to beat somebody else, like being on a team, right? And then because that other team is doing well and you're trying to beat them. So there's something about it. It's like, do people really talk bad about brands anymore? As far as like, you remember Ford found on road dead, or like, Buick, like, because people you would take sides. I don't know. Do you hear that a lot?
Yeah. When I grew up in the South, it was Chevy versus Ford all the time down here.
Right. Yeah. I said, a friend just asked this question. It's so funny you mentioned that. A friend in the automotive journalism, automotive media space just asked, do kids today fight over cars like we did, when we would get into arguments? And it seems like less so. I mean, I think there's still a little bit of it, but not the way it used to be. You were ride or die for Ford or Chevy or whatever. And I think that's bringing it back to the AMC thing. I think a lot of the people in the AMC community have that underdog spirit because AMC was the car people made fun of. And, AMC, we're all, AMCs are slow, AMCs are weird looking, AMCs are whatever. And so I think the car club today, they have that kind of underdog fighting spirit. That's what makes it such a fun group of people to be around, is that they're all hanging together. Like the one guy says at the end of the documentary, we were fighting long odds, but we were working together to beat the big guys,
That's right.
And I think to this day, the people who collect those cars and drive them and restore them, AMC means it's an underdog thing. Why drive a Chevy? There's millions of Chevys. Drive something different. Drive an AMC.
Love it.
I like it.
Thank you for the audience polls. Guys, we're going to pay some bills, and we'll be right back.
Let's do it.
Hey everybody, Chris here, and today's episode is sponsored by HelloFresh. Fall is here, and with it comes cooler nights, heartier meals, and the craving for something warm and satisfying. That's where HelloFresh comes in, bringing you comforting chef-designed recipes and fresh seasonal ingredients right to your door. This season, they've taken things to another level, Nick. They have, with their biggest menu refresh yet. All right, say hello to a whole new way to do dinner.
Man, when you said warm and satisfying, I thought you were talking about me. But
Mm.
yes, you're talking about HelloFresh. But listen, I know that you mentioned like a bunch of cool stuff, man. I think you said the biggest menu refresh, all sorts of good stuff. But you left out the fact that you can get some low-cal meals, lots of protein, and they actually taste good. So I also want to remind folks, like, look, this isn't for people who are on a diet. This is for people who are actually trying to get like a healthy routine, right? This is about healthy lifestyle. So HelloFresh to me is like hello fitness, hello new body, hello new health. That's what this is about. So that's why we're all in.
Yeah, we're all in. I have to say, these meals are absolutely delicious. I had the white cheddar crunch burgers, believable. The tomato Moz paninis. It's the best, one of the best sandwiches. That pesto that's on there. It's one of the best sandwiches. No cap, one of the best sandwiches I've ever had. And you
Yeah, they're
make
good,
all
man.
the stuff. You make all the stuff yourself at home, so it's really great. I can't do anything but like ditto everything you said. Look, the best way to cook just got better, right? Go to
Yes, sir.
hellofresh.com/make-it-10fm now to get 10. This is a crazy deal, Nick. 10 free meals
It is.
and
It
a
is.
free
It's
item
legit.
for life. You
Yeah,
get a free item for life.
that's fire.
hellofresh.com/make-it-10 F as in Frank, M as in Mary, make it 10 FM now to get 10 free meals and a free item for life. One per box with active subscription. Free meals applied as a discount on the first box. New subscribers only, and it varies by plan. But anyway, the point is hellofresh.com/make-it-10FM to get 10 free meals and a free item for life.
For life.
I'm
And
hungry
that's the
already, Nick.
idea. HelloFresh, health for life.
There it
Let's
is.
get it.
And now back to the show. And we're back. Joe Ligo, my man Nick,
Hey,
producer Papa Bear. Hey Nick, can we get into some filmmaker Q&A? Let's. The people have been itching. They want to know what Joe knows.
I like that. They want to.
Scratch that
Yeah.
itch.
Yeah, Bo knows football,
Scratch
right?
that itch.
So real quick, what was really cool about
Scratch
what
that
Joe
itch
was
is
saying
crazy,
earlier,
PB.
it is what Joe was saying earlier about like the Underdog story, like that really hit me when watching the documentary, and I couldn't help but make the parallels between what was happening with AMC and the filmmaking industry, right? Specifically when it comes to independent filmmaking. So I was thinking about, you're talking about like Chevy and like Plymouth, like all these big brands, and I'm like, man, that's like Disney and like Sony, Warner Brothers. So I was just thinking to myself, I was like, well, what would the parallels be like between the big auto companies and the big studios? So my questions are kind of finding the parallel between that story and your story. So I'm going to break it down like this, right? You ready? So the first one we're going to talk about, I've got a bunch of these, but I'm going to we'll just do 4 questions, right? All right. So the first one is about market share and distribution. So just as AMC had to fight for market share, while GM, Ford, and Chrysler controlled the majority of dealerships and ad space, independent filmmakers faced the challenge of getting their films seen in theaters, festivals, and streaming platforms that are obviously dominated by the major studios. So the question is, what partnerships or niche markets should independent filmmakers leverage to build a loyal following outside of those mainstream channels?
Wow, that's a good one. I'll talk about what worked for us, because we didn't produce a feature length documentary. We produced a series of episodes, of half-hour episodes, and so we distributed our program, The Last Independent Automaker, through public television, so PBS. But so there are over 300 PBS stations around the country. The way the system works, or just a brief crash course in it, is that as an outside producer, you partner with an individual station. In our case, it was Maryland Public Television. And then MPT acted as the presenting station, which then packaged that, uploaded that, and took it to a syndicator, which was called APT, American Public Television. So there's a lot of acronyms here. Stay with me.
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah,
then
we're with you.
APT syndicated that and made that program available to all of its member stations that subscribe to APT, which is some 300 stations around the country.
Yep.
And so we went through the public television system because we knew that it would be free for people to watch. We would reach a wide audience, and there is also, they have high standards, which was good for our team because it held us to a high standard, but it also establishes, especially in documentary filmmaking, a level of credibility, right? Anybody can go on YouTube and throw out an AI generated slop, and your
That's
uncle
right.
will be like, man, I didn't know this was true. Look at this video I found. And you have to explain, like, no, Godzilla isn't real. Bigfoot isn't real just because it's on YouTube. So so the public television system worked for us, and because of the sort of episodic historical nature of our program. But it was also a multi-level partnership in that I had an established YouTube channel called Auto Moments, which had lower budget, smaller automotive videos on it. And so I was able to leverage that audience that I had already made from 10 years of YouTube work to help kind of lift us up to the next level and say, like, hey, we're producing this thing that's going to be on PBS. We need your help to help us fundraise. And but then as a reward, they get to watch it for free because it was first, it airs on public television, then now it's available on YouTube. And so that was a great way to sort of bring those two audiences together. And but that partnership with public television worked for us. And I would say for people looking into historical or factual documentary filmmaking, there's a lot of opportunity there. I know that the public media space is going through a lot of upheaval right now and question marks around funding. But I think there's also a lot of opportunities there to get your content on public television. I think they're hungry for new stories, new content. Figuring out the financial side of it is tricky, and we're still learning that as we go along. But we're very thankful for the folks at MPT and APT who saw this project, believed in this project, and thought that the stations around the country would like it. And so far, the data we've gotten from them shows that it's exceeded expectations in terms of viewership. So we're super happy about that.
Yeah, exposure across 300 different stations, my friend, is nothing to scoff at, right?
You
Which is why
I was going to say.
Yeah, go ahead, PB.
Well, you can't ask for better free advertising than the network of public television across the nation.
Right. And I think, as we're sussing out analytics from YouTube and trying to figure out what's driving people to find us, I think it shows that a lot of people watch on public television and then maybe go to our website and they watch the rest of it online, or they want to watch it again, so they watch it online. And so that's been kind of a great partnership. And it's funny, I get reports back of what stations are airing us, and it's like, oh, New York aired us at 5 a.m. on Sunday. Well, so you're not always getting prime time slots, but I was very excited. I was looking, it's like, why is Salt Lake City PBS airing us in prime time? And I was like, because Mitt Romney, the whole Romney thing, as you know from episode 1, Mitt Romney's father, right, George Romney, plays a big part in the story. And I was like, of course, the Romneys, Utah, he's a senator there. So it was a head scratcher because you don't think of Utah as like a big car culture place.
Right.
Nice.
But yeah, so that's very lucky.
That's awesome. Okay, very good. All right, so the next question that I have is regarding budget constraints and economies of scale. So the big three could produce their vehicles at scale, driving down per unit costs. I think you talked about this in like episodes 1 and 2. AMC often had to spend more per car, limiting their profitability. Independent filmmakers face similar struggles. Major studios amortize their costs over multiple projects. Chris talks about this, while indie filmmakers have to stretch every dollar. So, what creative financing strategies like grants, crowdfunding, product placement, or whatever can help independent filmmakers compete with higher budget projects?
Well, we have a thing that I call brutally low overhead, which in practice looks like Jim and I sharing a bed at a $42 a night Airbnb. So, I
Whatever
mean,
works.
especially especially in those early years, when we had no money and we were just funding it out of pocket. Yeah, we worked really hard to just keep costs as low as possible. And interviews are relatively cheap to film.
Yep.
And right, it looked like stuff like staying at the cheapest Airbnb you could find. It looked like stuff like driving our own personal vehicles and having to
Yep.
beg, borrow, and steal equipment from friends and coworkers and stuff, and saying like, hey, can I take your light kit this weekend? So that kind of thing was a big part of it at the beginning. Now, once we actually did partner with MPT, there was no big paycheck. There was no big PBS check to us. We actually had to raise our own money and pay our own way. But MPT helped us with that, in that they allowed us to use their nonprofit status to apply for grants. And I'm sure, as you're familiar in the film world, there's a thing called fiscal sponsorship, which means
That's right.
having a 501c3 nonprofit not pay you, but act as a conduit for you to receive tax deductible donations, to receive grants from nonprofit or government organizations, that kind of thing. And so MPT helped us by acting as a fiscal agent, which allowed us to apply for a grant from the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation. And we're super excited to get that grant. The Automotive Hall of Fame in Dearborn acted as our fiscal sponsor when we applied for a grant from Motor City's National Heritage Area. So that was a grant that helped pay for the project. And then we had a corporate sponsor in Visit Detroit, which is a tourism agency based in the Detroit region. So we kind of had a lot of different legs on our stool when it came to funding. We had crowdfunding, we had corporate sponsorship, we had grants, and that helped us kind of build a foundation. So I'd say with any documentary project, you don't want to chase the money, you want to do what you're passionate about, but it certainly helps when you can at least have a Venn diagram where potential funding and potential ideas have some overlap. And we knew that going into this, that we weren't going to get rich, but we knew there were opportunities to fund a project that dealt with historical preservation and science and technology and regional history. So we definitely learned a lot through the funding process. So I'd say that our two big secrets to answer your question is, one, spend as little as possible. Be like AMC, recycle pieces, recycle parts, cut costs where you can, where the consumer won't see the cracks. And then on the other side, it was, look for sources of funding that other people haven't thought of, and look at grants. Grants can be a huge thing.
Yeah, that's great.
42
you
Ways to
shouted
Film
them
Your
out.
Independent Film, written by Nicholas K. Buggs, brought to you by the Make It Podcast. Go to our Beacons page, which is on all of our sites, or go to themakeitpodcast.com and download that book to understand what Joe was talking about. Lots of different ways to fund your film. Anyway, plug in there, Nick. See that?
Yeah, I appreciate you. Thank you very
All right.
much.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it has to go said. I won't leave it unsaid that there were over 300. I can't remember if it was like 375, but it was like over 300 people and organizations supported your film, which I thought was amazing, right? Because you shouted out,
Yes.
the funding sources, and when you said like 300 something people, I was like, that is so cool.
Yes, over 375 private donors, organizations, businesses, everybody from people who donate, $5 to, the larger corporate funders. But yes, and part of that comes from having the established YouTube base. I mean, having a channel with 40,000 subscribers when we started this project allowed us to go to them and say like, hey, we're trying to make something really cool, something bigger than just a YouTube video. We want to make a big project here. And they gave us the money to get this off the ground. It wouldn't cover the entire cost, but it helped us get started. And a huge thanks need to be said to all the different AMC clubs around the country, the American Motors Owners Association. I mean, I have been talking about this project to them since 2016, and the club has been behind me the whole way. So many people in that group of collectors and owners. They've donated their time. They've fact-checked scripts. They donated money, or they even allowed us to film their cars and, dealt with the rigmarole that it takes to film footage for the documentary. So we're so blessed by that awesome group of people, the AMC Owners Clubs.
That's great, man. That's great. All right, so let's move on to number 3 of 4. All
Number
right, so
three.
number 3 is technology and R&D. So, GM, Ford, and Chrysler poured massive sums into engineering and innovation, leaving AMC to innovate selectively, like pioneering compact cars, though they might have been unable to match every feature. Similarly, independent filmmakers must selectively adopt new technologies like virtual production, AI tools, and post production workflows. So, in your opinion, which emerging technologies could help level the playing field and give indie filmmakers more of a competitive edge?
Ooh.
And are you specifically talking about documentary, Nick, here, or just broadly
Well,
speaking?
anything Joe wishes to speak to. I know that he's, steeped in the documentary world. So anything in that space, but anything filmmaking wise, what emerging technologies could help
Yeah.
level the playing field?
Well, I think one thing that helped us from the very beginning was knowing that we couldn't be to bring up I'm going to beat this dead horse, that we couldn't make Heat. We couldn't be Michael Mann, right? So
Right,
so
right.
knowing what our boundaries were, said, okay, we're going to work within this box. How can we do the best job possible within this box? That we're not going to have $1 million budgets. So how can we do the best job? And I mean, because this project took so long, one of the biggest things that sticks out to me is just how cheap cameras have gotten. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we started out shooting on a red. I think it was a red. It was one of the lower end reds. It was a red, either a scarlet or I forget the hierarchy of names, but it was one of the lower end red cameras, which at the time was still like a 5-figure purchase that a friend had bought for something
So
else, and they were
Komodo.
willing to let us. I think it was either that, or I think it might have been a Scarlet. It wasn't the Epic. Like I said, I can't
Okay.
remember the names.
Yeah.
This was years ago. But anyways, we started shooting on a red that a friend had bought and we were able to use. And that's a 5-figure camera. And by the time we finished, we were shooting on, a Black Magic
Yeah.
Pocket, which, I think the body for a Black Magic Pocket, even like a 6K one, I mean, that's like what, like a $3,000-$4,000 body
Yeah.
versus a camera that was a $10,000,
Yeah.
So lenses haven't gotten that much cheaper, probably, if anything, more expensive, but bodies have gotten so much cheaper. So just that kind of thing, I think that's a huge thing. It's just camera technology has gotten so much cheaper. That's a huge advantage to indie filmmakers. And maybe if you're Christopher Nolan, you can notice the difference, but like to regular people, I'm going to be a little controversial and be like 4K is still good enough. Like
Yeah.
all these people
Okay.
are like,
Yeah,
you got
yeah.
to shoot 6K, got to shoot an 8K, you got to shoot an IMAX. For documentary, at least, I think 4K is still good enough. It's more about how you use the equipment rather than it's how you use the equipment. I'm, again, super lucky to work with somebody like Jim, who is much more technically advanced than I am. It was much more about how we use the equipment than whether or not we had the latest high dollar thing. And I think that is similar to AMC's story. Is they had a limited number of options on the table, and they said, we're going to use these parts to the best of our ability to save money and still make a good product. And I think that was kind of our thing. Now, as far as emerging technologies, I think cheap cameras are a big thing. I mean, I think drones are a huge thing.
Okay.
We
Yeah.
had a decision early on not to use drones just because we didn't think it would advance the story in any meaningful way to have drone footage. But I had used drones. I had hired drone pilots at my previous job, and there were instances I had to sit down with my producers and co-producers and say, like, is this drone footage advancing the story, or are you just throwing it in here because it's cool?
Mm.
And so, sometimes people didn't like me, but I felt like
Being honest.
at my previous job producing the farming television program, I had that conversation a lot where people would want to use the latest thing. And I'm like, but is it making your story better, or is it distracting you from getting the footage and interviews you need because you want to play with the toy? And there were stories where drone footage was absolutely critical, or, slow motion was another thing. We got these high frame rate cameras, and then all of a sudden I see all the slow-mo footage showing up in segments that people were submitting.
Yeah.
And I was like, let's use it where it tells the story instead of just throwing it in, as a trend. And so that's why for our documentary, we decided against using drone footage because it wasn't important. But as a technology, as you guys know, they're awesome. There's just so much cool stuff you can do.
Yeah.
So I'd say drones, cameras, even just editing, like, high power computers, so much easier to get a hold of and to use, now. So I'd say those. As far as AI tools, we kind of started this project before generative AI became a huge deal. And so we were already halfway through post when generative AI sort of came onto the scene. We didn't use it to create anything. There were a few instances where we fed audio through certain AI tools from Adobe or other software companies to clean up audio where there was noise or whatever. But
Okay.
I, as a documentary filmmaker, I was very nervous about using any kind of generative AI because I feel like there's an ethical line there. You don't want to create footage you don't have. If you're telling a true story.
Great point.
Now, if I was making a feature film, I think there's a lot of cool opportunities to use AI as a helper when designing effects or that kind of thing.
Just don't let your audience know. They freak out, and it's like it's stuff that they wouldn't notice if you didn't.
Right.
They didn't know.
Right.
Because there's a lot of space in between, especially in transitions. Like there's a lot of ways you can use AI without making an AI character.
Right. Sometimes it's just to clean up stuff or whatever. And I think if you're making a feature film or a fictional film, I know Superman isn't real. So like, I'm not, it's okay if the special effects aren't, it's okay if the special effects aren't real. But I think in documentary, you have to be really careful. I think an instance where maybe on future projects where, AI tools could be helpful would be creating animations where you're explaining how something worked. How an engine works, how a mechanical thing works. AI can maybe shorten the time to put together those kind of effects. And that's just me speaking from speculation, not experience. But I do think as a documentary filmmaker, if you are using generated footage, whether it's just animated by a human or special effects or AI, I do think that you have to be careful that your audience knows they're watching a recreation or a reconstruction or a generated product. That there has to be some kind of disclaimer. Even that was one thing, this was not my decision, but somebody at MPT insisted in the scenes where we had actors reading quotes from actual individuals who worked at American Motors. They insisted that we put, reenactment down in the corner so people knew that it wasn't a recording of George Romney's actual voice. It was just me, or I'm George Romney and this is American Motors. So that was kind of an ethical thing I think was important, so that we weren't deliberately misleading our audience. So. But sorry if that's a very winding answer.
No, it's great. That's why we ask the questions, because we get this insight for ourselves and our audience, right? All right. So this is the last one. This is survival through differentiation. So AMC survived by leaning into unique vehicles, right? We talked about this, like the Rambler and the Gremlin, carving a niche. Independent filmmakers often survive by making distinctive personal films rather than competing head to head with blockbusters. So my question is, for you, and of course applies to the independent filmmaker, how do you use your unique voice and your unique story to get people to actually bet on your film? Because like you mentioned, it's grants, it's donations, it's all this different funding, it's partnerships that you have to build. But how are you doing that? How are you using your unique voice and your unique story to attract people to bet on your film?
Sure. I think this was definitely a passion project for me. Mm-hmm. But I also think that there was some logic behind it of this is a story nobody else is going to tell. Nobody else is going to track these guys down, interview these former employees. Nobody else had the industry connections that my co-producer Pat Foster had. Nobody else had the photo archive that my co-producer Pat Foster had of some 10,000 plus images related to American Motors, press photos, personal photos, that kind of thing. And so I think for us, it was very much let's tell a story nobody else is going to tell. And hopefully it'll overlap with an audience. And I think the data has shown that we've gotten both from PBS and from just our own YouTube channel that, the data has shown people are really excited. I mean, we got 500,000 views in under 6 months, which was pretty good for us. And that doesn't include also the public television audience. So I think finding a space where there's a story that's not being told, And it's funny because after this project was done, somebody recommended to me, it's like, you really should do a documentary about the Corvette next. And I was like, there's 100 Corvette documentaries
Right,
out there.
right, right.
They don't need my opinion on the Corvette, but finding these other niches where there are stories that aren't being told that are still exciting and interesting to people. It's finding that balance. It's like Vince Gerace said during one of his interviews, there's a fine line between unique and strange. Naturally,
Right.
you want to be on the unique side of it. And I think that same goes with filmmaking. There's a fine line between unique and strange, and you want to be on the unique side.
Yeah, but I think
No,
that the one thing
100%.
that you did talk about earlier that I want to emphasize is that you found the unique, you found a story worth telling, but you yourself are part of a community, right? These
Yes.
auto loving, car loving, it's a community of people. So it's not just that the story was unique and it was a passion project, but you knew that people were going to be interested in this because people are as interested in cars and their stories and their histories as you are. So that is one thing that I think is really important, is that take your story to your community. And those are the folks that are really going
Yeah.
to help lift you up and bring you through this journey that you've been on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's true. One of my former colleagues, when I worked on the show about farming, she did social issue documentaries in her spare time or in her prior career before this, and it was a very different subject matter than I dealt with. It was, she went to India, traveled to India a lot, and filmed documentaries about women and the challenges of just the social issues in those regions. And she took these films to her community of people. And here in the US, she had a big family and friends and support community who loved the filmmaking she was doing, and she went to them for support to say, help me tell these stories about these people in India, help me tell the stories about these women and the challenges they go through. And she got overwhelming support from her community, and it's a great example. You're very right. It when you can have a group behind you, it's so awesome. I'm so thankful. And we got to go, if you check out our Facebook page, we actually got to go to Kenosha and meet. It was the world's largest AMC car show, and we got to meet so many people. And I had folks approach me randomly who just recognized me off the internet and be like, "We loved your movie. It was so good."
That's awesome.
And
It is great.
it's the
Also,
closest
also
I've
love the
ever.
sentence "car show in Kenosha."
Yeah, right.
I'm just gonna walk around and start saying it. It's just a fun thing to say. Hey, car
And
show in Kenosha.
yeah, so the Kenosha
awesome.
Homecoming Car Show, they do it once every 3 years, and yeah, it's the closest I've ever felt to being a celebrity, and it was really cool just to see how much the documentary, how much it meant to people, to have people say, I worked there, my uncle worked there, my dad worked there, I owned this car or that car, and thank you so much for telling this story. That means more to me than any number of YouTube views or any of that kind of thing. It's just awesome.
There's a car
Good
company
stuff,
down here
man.
named Saturn that went out of business. Had a big
Yeah,
Mhm.
factory down here, and there's still a lot of people whose dads worked in that factory, and you still hear about it. People talk about it, and I just think that's part of why they're walking up to you, is because people sometimes we get close to objects, right? It's just a very human thing. We can get really close to our pets in a way that we can't get close to some human beings, right? Like a la John Wick or whatever. But it's, people love their cars. Like it's part of their life. It's in the fabric to the point where their families work for the companies, and then it becomes personal. So that's why I have to walk up and talk to you. Before we go into some things we should know with producer Papa Bear and Nick, another killer filmmaker Q&A, by the way, and thank you for dropping those good questions on us. I want to address something Joe was talking about, I think, in question number 3, about how you can sort of save dollars, the price of cameras, price of the things you need as an independent filmmaker have gone down. If you're smart, you know where to look, right? Like, so just want to say shout out to B&H, they're great, but they're not cheap, and there's
No,
other
not
places to
cheap.
go. So if you're shooting on iPhone, new iPhones came out recently. I love this site called Beast Grip. They sell anamorphic lenses for iPhone, all kinds of accessories just to make your iPhone look more cinematic, so you can shoot features, documentaries on it. If you're buying a body of a camera, I always think about the Creator with John David Washington, Nick, where
Hmm.
they shot the majority of that film on a Sony FX3. You know, was like a major motion picture release, bunch of sci-fi,
Wow.
but it
Oh
goes
yeah,
to
it's a
Joe's
huge film.
huge, but it goes to Joe's point that if you're really good in post and you have a bunch of experts and tools in post, you can cover it up. Now, I think the parts where there was action where you had to move, they had to shoot on FX6, I think, or maybe some other cameras came in for those scenes because the 3 isn't going to be able to pick up that movement like that, a cinematic level like that. But just the idea that they shot a major motion picture that was a blockbuster sort of vibe to it with a camera that would cost you just under $4,000 for the body is awesome. Right now, I don't know if they shot on $40,000 lenses or not, but
Right.
and not
They didn't tell you
and
about that.
right, but that's the, again, it goes back to what I always say, like the whole Spike Lee, it's got to be the shoes, and Mars Blackman. No, the
Hmm.
whole point of that is to say it's not the equipment, it's the person using the equipment. It's Jordan, fool. That's what
You're
it is.
right.
If you're good with your tools,
Yeah.
like Joe was saying, you're going to be all right. And then for LUTs, I love this place called Cinema 8. So they don't put the A at the end. It's like cinema, and then the A isn't on there. It's just like the number 8. They have all these LUT suites that I think are really awesome. Like for Sony and Apple, you can just throw your color mixes on it and try it out. And they even upload to, like, obviously they upload to Premiere and Logic, and not Logic, but Final Cut and DaVinci. But they also upload to CapCut. So if you're just like a creator, like, you can
Right.
use these cinematic LUTs on that too. So just a couple of things there. And shout out to Michael Mann, the late great Michael Mann. We've mentioned a few people who have passed away in this episode. I don't know, it's like on theme or whatever, but I think we've mentioned 3 people who have passed away so far. So just wanted to make sure we put that in there. Papa Bear, can you drop us some things we should know? I'm ready for this trivia. I feel like I
All right.
might get this one. I know a little bit of car stuff.
Yeah, you're better
Okay.
suited than I am for this.
Yeah. Well, a quick tidbit for our listening audience. I don't think it has escaped our attention that Joe is wearing a shirt that sports the 3 main colors of the AMC logo:
Yes, he is.
red, white, and blue.
Mhm.
And that's a thing for our listening audience.
Yep.
To
They
know.
can't see it.
It's a thing
Um,
for them to know. By the
That's
way,
right.
Papa Bear, can you lean to the left or right so that we can see what's behind your head? Look at this, Joe.
Hey, I know that car. I recognize that's our hero car from the trailer.
There it is. There
Yes,
it is. So
and
we
it's
always have a little
also
Easter egg for our guests there.
yeah,
That's
it's
great.
also the very last shot of your last episode.
Yes, yeah, that was we were in a rush to get that done under deadline. I'm like, oh, what are we going to use as the final shot? I can't find it, and then it was just like it had to be that.
There it is.
There's not a bit, just a lone AMC AMX sports car sitting at the end of a road with the trees kind of waving in the wind. There's no better shot. I can't think of a better way to end it, with a quote from Vince Gerace as we fade into that shot. Yeah.
So
done.
here we go with the thing we should know.
Mhm.
Now,
All right.
Joe, you've made your series, the Last Independent Car Company Automaker. But what company was the first independent automaker in the U.S.? I'm sure you know this.
What company is the
Oh.
first independent automaker in the U.S.?
Yeah, what company was the first independent automaker?
Oh,
Ford.
that's tricky. So for
I have a
context,
guess.
for
No, go ahead,
context
Joe.
for the audience, because a lot of people have asked me, well, what's an independent automaker? An
Mhm.
independent automaker, as we explained in episode 1, was a term the press used to describe any car company that wasn't part of the big three, which was GM, Ford, and Chrysler, because GM and Chrysler and Ford were conglomerates. They had multiple brands under one umbrella.
Right.
And the independents were these smaller companies, Hudson, Nash, Packard, Studebaker. So technically, there was a period at the early 1900s where there were thousands of car companies in the United States that maybe only were just guys in a garage, building stuff by hand. But if you want to go with who is the oldest, I would say, am I allowed to answer?
Is it the oldest, PB, or
Yes.
is it the first?
Yeah,
Well,
we're
same
all-
difference, right?
I guess.
As in, yeah. But go ahead.
Well,
Which
I'm
one
just
is
saying
it?
the oldest now, like the first might have died
Oh,
in
no,
3 years, and the oldest might have
Well,
lived.
the
kept
oldest
going
would
for
be
100.
whoever made Fred Flintstone's car.
Right.
It was
Yeah.
Fred.
Well,
Fred made his own car. But go ahead. Yeah.
I think we're
What do you got?
conflating. We're conflating
Him and a
definitions here.
lumberjack.
It's
What do you got,
definitely
Joe?
it's definitely the first, right, PB?
Yeah, yeah.
Not the oldest.
Yeah, it's the first.
Okay.
It's the first.
so the Studebaker Corporation started out making like covered wagons in the 1800s, and sometime in the late 1800s, early 1900s, they switched to building cars. I don't think they weren't the first car built in the United States, but if you're going to go off of which company existed first, it was Studebaker. So that would be my answer. But as far as the first company, the first independent company to build a car in the U.S., that I don't know.
I was going to go with Studebaker as well, but just to make it fun, since your guess is Studebaker, I'm going with Ford because Papa Bear's tricky. At some point, Ford was an independent.
Yeah, that's what
All
I
right.
said. That's why I was my.
True.
That's why it was my first thing. That's why I said Ford. I was like, he was independent before he became a conglomerate. But I'm not.
That is true.
Yeah, I'm just not sure of the time frames on these. So I'll
All right,
stick
drop
with
it on us,
Ford.
PB. What do we got? What do we got?
The first independent U.S. automaker was the Duria Motor Wagon Company, founded in 1895
Well,
by
hey, look,
brothers
he
Charles.
he
You
had it
said
right.
diarrhea company? The diarrhea company?
He said
Duria,
Duria.
Duryea, Motor
Wait, I'm writing this
Wagon
down. Hold
Company.
on, PB. Dury what?
EA.
EA. What kind of
Mhm.
name is that?
Well,
All right, go
that
ahead,
just
PB.
goes to show there were thousands of these little companies. Some of them were just, blacksmith shops turning out 2 or 3 cars a year. But it's right. It was very much, I'm sure, similarly to like, how the film world is. There's periods where there's tons of these little independent studios and they merge and merge and
Yeah.
merge and go out of business, and the big ones take off and the little ones go by the wayside. There's always that creation and recreation cycle.
Tell us about Duria.
This
PB.
company was founded in 1895 by brothers Charles and J. Frank Duria.
Hmm.
And in 1896, it became the first American company to sell commercially produced gasoline-powered cars. And like the Wright brothers, they were formerly bicycle mechanics.
Got it. Charles and J. Frank Duria. Shout out to Charles and J. Frank.
Yeah.
Wait. Isn't that the same or a similar backstory to AMC?
Yes.
You see?
Yes, a lot of these guys started out making bicycles. So the
right.
Thomas B. Jeffrey Company, which then became Nash Motors, which then became part of American Motors.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas B. Jeffrey started out making bicycles in Chicago, ended that venture, moved to Kenosha, bought a used bicycle factory, and turned it into a car factory.
Crazy.
And so there's a whole thing. One guy got into an argument with me over bicycles and where they were made. And Jeffrey didn't make bikes here; he made them there. And so that was one of the fact-checking things we had to make sure we got right. Was that
It's crazy.
Jeffrey built bikes, then switched to cars, but they were never built in the same building.
Got it.
So.
Yep.
But yes, there were a lot of guys. I mean, early cars were basically 4-wheeled bikes with an engine. So
Right.
there's definitely some similarities.
So it's like you cared about locomotion, and you just then you had the steam engine, and so from there you were
Right.
able to build the gas engine. You said, what if we put this bicycle? What if we just make it go really fast? I want to
Right.
fly
What if
off
we
this
gave it-
cliff.
What if we gave it 4 wheels and made it go 60 miles an hour?
There you go.
That's
Yep.
it. Papa
Yeah.
Bear, that is definitely a thing we should know.
You taught me something.
You're
I
right. And
mean, can you imagine how powerful Joe's going to feel at the Kenosha Car Show next time he goes?
That's right.
When they're drinking
it,
cocktails, sipping back the bourbon. Now, did you know?
Doria.
Let me
You
talk
say
to
you
you
got
about.
what
yeah.
again?
Let me talk to you about. Let me. Yeah. What do you got? No. Listen. Let me tell you about two gentlemen.
Right.
Charles and Jay Frank.
Mm.
And to add to that, he can also
Mm.
say that Aduria Carr won the first car race, a 54-mile race from Chicago to Evanston, Illinois in
Ah,
Wow.
1895.
Why 54
Wait a
miles,
second.
PB?
Wait a
Well, that's
second.
how far it is between the
Oh,
two
it
places.
was just like we're just driving between cities. I got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Wait. So I'm assuming so they were the first. I wonder how long it took for others to pop up because they won a race. I'm like, who are they
I
racing?
wonder if there's a horse running
Oh
alongside.
yeah, who are they?
Exactly.
Are they proven? Wasn't that the old Henry Ford line? If I asked people what I should make next, they would say faster horses.
Right.
right. Yeah, that's right.
I see that innovation happens when you let God in the room, so to speak. You kind of isolate yourself off and have a great imagination. Again, going back to cars are way, way more than just going from A to B. Now,
Yep.
I will say this, Nick. In college, I had a Volkswagen Jetta Wolfsburg Edition 1.8 turbo. I
Ooh.
loved that car, but I will tell you, I spent more in repairs in that car than the
I
car
remember.
cost.
Yes.
And it was a car that could not get right. Now, 15 years later, it came out that the O2 sensors on that car were faulty and were basically hiding emissions fraud, right? And so that's why my O2 sensors were always kicking errors back. No mechanic could fix it. Constant O2 sensor errors. And I had to find a mechanic. Shout out to my boy Essie. I had to find a mechanic that would just he would literally drive my car through MARTA so that it would pass code so I could keep my car. He had a way of like making sure that check engine light went off when he went through MARTA, and it would come right back on just in time, right as he got out, and it would pass the test. It was crazy, bro. Like, so that's one of those cars that you're talking about where it's kind of like not an old car. It's not a car you can't afford. And it's just kind of in the middle as a commodity, but it's sort of posing as a BMW, right? But it's
Right.
not a BMW. Now today we don't have that issue. To me, I think a Model 3 by Tesla, for example, is so or Model Y, the new Model Y, like either one of those are so accessible to every single person on the planet, and yet they perform and you won't spend a lot of money on them, and they have some beauty to them as well. So
They're not
anyway,
they're not accessible to me. They're not
because you get
accessible to
sick,
me.
you get
Exactly.
nauseous, and
Joe, I
then
got straight up sick, man. I test drove one. I was like, it was like my stomach was
Uh,
not I had was it I didn't
that
have
roller coaster
diarrhea.
effect, Joe. Yeah, you had
But
diarrhea. You had
yeah,
diarrhea.
yeah, no, I know what you mean. Some people definitely get the motion sickness thing from the way.
Now
the
we laugh at
cars
Nick about
handle or
this
whatever.
behind his back, so don't worry, Joe.
not to my
I know
face.
that.
No, not to your face.
I've
We're
heard about
sensitive
that
to your
too.
face.
It's
We
like a whole
empathize with
thing.
your sickness.
Yeah. But yeah, Joe, it's the regenerative braking. Yeah, it affects like some
Yeah.
small percentage of people, whatever, but it's like me and then my wife. Like we both got in it and we're like, we can't deal with this. Now I have a different electric car that I don't have that problem with, but she still can't drive my car. Like
Yeah.
she gets sick within like 2 minutes of driving it.
Oof.
But that Tesla, man,
Is it you have an electric car right now, or is it a hybrid?
Yeah, I have an electric car.
Which one is
The
it?
Honda Prologue.
cool.
Honda Prologue.
Oh,
Okay.
cool.
Yeah. I know the Prologue.
So, but when I got in the Tesla, man, like I drove it and I thought it was cool. I enjoyed it.
I did not
It
know
wasn't
you had a
until
Honda Prologue. I'm gonna write that down.
afterward, like I was talking
Yeah.
to people in the Tesla shop and
You
didn't
can, like,
understand. I
feel
couldn't
it.
stand up straight. My head was foggy. You know, I went to try to
Yeah.
eat and that wasn't working out. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm one of those 6%.
Yes, you
Yeah.
are. You're
Well,
a rare bird.
If I can brag about my car, that's it there. That's my 1972 AMC Ambassador that
There
I
it
drove all the
is.
way to Kenosha and back.
We love it.
1,400 miles.
It's badass.
That's
So
beautiful.
That is. I
So
felt
it's
like
pretty,
I couldn't
man.
make a film about AMC if I didn't have
If you
one.
didn't have
so,
one.
You know,
That's
I had to
right.
give-
Well, see,
So for
again,
those listening,
unique personal
Joe
story.
just showed us a picture on his iMac of his 1972 AMC ambassador, just for those.
Look at that.
For those,
Get to see it on the
And
wall
this,
too. Get the
and he's got
posters.
some posters behind him. I love that Helvetica font. PB, look at that Helvetica
yes,
font. Perfect, and the
yes.
lorry stripes at the bottom. I mean, come on. See, they
So
had this design figured out, PB, way back in the day.
AMC enthusiasts are all pack rats. They save everything. They save. I've seen guys save paper cups that had the AMC logo on them, like that would be in a water cooler, and they save them and they bring them to flea markets and swap meets and stuff. I mean, I've got binders and official company documents and all the stuff coming in that have AMC logos on them. So I mean, I'm just as bad as the rest of them. AMC owners. We save. I think it's because we feel like this company's not around anymore, so we have to save it. We got to salvage it. We got to hold on to it.
Yeah, you're like the elders. You're like holding on to the stories of the family, right?
Right.
You have to keep telling the story so it stays alive.
And I think that's part of what made this documentary, I won't say easy, but easier to make, was that people hold on to things like old brochures and photos and
Joe's holding up
stockholder reports
of a 1983.
1983 brochure,
I think.
So, and we actually, I have to brag just a little bit. If you watched episode 5, we interviewed a former actor. His name was Sam Groom, and he was a movie and TV actor who was also the spokesperson for American Motors. And it was really cool hearing him talk about working for AMC. And, I was working on this movie, and then, my agent got me this job to audition for a TV commercial. And, and he said, it was funny. He said, he said, when I was a young working actor doing things like Gunsmoke and stuff, he said, I was desperate for a commercial because commercials paid. He said commercials paid way more than bit parts on TV shows. Yeah,
still.
And he said, I never managed to get a commercial until I was older and already had an established reputation. He said, but I got this AMC job and did that for 2 or 3 years, and it was really good. And he mentioned that the company gave him an AMC Eagle wagon as like part of his package, his payment package.
I'll take that. That's great.
And he said that he lived next to Lawrence Kasdan, the writer director. And I guess there was some story about him pulling up into his driveway, and Lawrence Kasdan saw his AMC Eagle or something. So I forget just kind of a neat kind of thing. The people in the circles they work in and stuff. It's like, oh, here's the guy who wrote Empire Strikes Back, and you're you met the guy who knew the guy who wrote Star Wars.
6 degrees
and all his ladies pulled up in my driveway one day. That's awesome. PB, thank you so much. That is some things we should know.
My pleasure.
Joe, are you ready to clear the MFN set? Are you ready to clear the set?
Yes. After almost 10 years of working on this project, I'm ready. I'm done. Glad to be wrapping it up.
Let's clear the set right now. You've been so generous with your time. Let's hit it. What are your top 3 films all time?
It changes every time I see a new one. I can't just pick one. I mean, right now it's Heat. Right? It's Heat. But I mean, I'm a car guy. It's got to be the 1969 Disney's The Love Bug with Dean Jones, Buddy Hackett. I mean, it's a great car movie. It's a fun family movie. It's a comedy, but you could tell the people who made it loved cars. Mm-hmm. And it's not the whole Herbie, the Volkswagen Bug stuff. It's not just for comedy. The people who worked on this new cars and the other vehicles in the film, the hero cars, the side character cars, it's a beautiful film. And one thing that I thought of, we used a lot of archive footage in our documentary of 1960s Trans Am racing because AMC raced the Javelin and the AMX. Yeah. And it's amazing how similar that footage looks to footage in the Love Bug. Because they're racing on the same tracks in California. They're racing at Riverside or Laguna Seca or whatever. Yeah. And it's the same place that a lot of the scenes from the Love Bug is filmed. And it just brought me back watching these, Javelins racing on this track. I was like, that's the same track that Herbie was on. So that was really cool. So, I mean, nice. Heat, the Love Bug. I love
Christine. That was the movie, right?
Yes, I'm not big on like scary movie stuff. I know it's a great movie. It's a great car movie, but it's
Yes.
not my kind of film. Somebody pointed out that, if they made Christine today, the car would, when Christine was made, the car was a 1950s car. If they
Hmm.
updated it for today, the car would be like a 1990s car. And
Yeah.
somebody's like, a Plymouth Breeze isn't really as scary
Right.
as Christine. It's like a purple Plymouth Breeze.
Yeah.
Not really a horror icon.
Nah,
Yeah,
not
true.
gonna work.
But yeah, so Heat, The Love Bug, and I mean, as far as James Bond movies, I love all of them, but GoldenEye is just fantastic. But I mean, Jim and I could go. It's a new movie every week. You'd have to ask Jim. We joke. We always have movies we're talking about. He's a fanatic. He got the latest 4K release of The Abyss, the James Cameron movie.
Oh wow, yeah.
But he hated the color grading, so he took it back into Premiere and regraded it before he could watch it.
That's amazing.
I call him. I'm like, what are you up to?
He's a sociopath. I love that.
He's like, what are you up to, man? He's like, I'm just regrading The Abyss because it looks terrible.
Oh man, yeah. Like I said, I love that.
Dedicated, man.
So
name a film you're embarrassed to admit you haven't seen.
Jaws.
Oh,
I haven't seen Jaws.
Oh,
I know.
hey,
tell Jim.
I know.
Tell Jim
Yeah,
you want it.
yeah, that's hilarious because my son just watched that last night for the first time.
What do you think?
Really?
What do you think?
Yeah, well, I haven't even talked to him about it yet, man. I haven't talked to him about
I'm
it
wondering
yet, so
if
I
it
gotta get
holds
on
up.
Is he still hiding
Hold
under
up.
the bed?
that. Right, way.
I'm just trying to see if it holds
But yeah,
up.
I
I want to see.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so I'll tell you.
There's so
let you
many embarrassing films I haven't seen, but in the last 2-3 years, I've tried really hard to like start checking them off the list. Saw The Godfather, Top Gun, all like
All the classics. Yeah.
trying to fill up my list, but then I'll get down a rabbit hole, and then next thing you know, I'm like, I go down a side road, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna watch all these Studio Ghibli films, and instead of watching Jaws, I'm watching Spirited Away instead. So I get off topic.
Nothing wrong with Spirited Away. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's all good.
Name a film that everyone loves that you hate.
Well, I don't know if anyone loves it anymore, but this goes back to the thing we started the discussion of movies everybody loved and then turn, the audience being chased. I did not like the first Transformers movie, and I was forced to watch it against my will 3 different times.
He said
on
3 times.
on bus
Someone
trips.
held you hostage.
So my senior, junior year of high school or whatever, we took a lot of bus trips, go on different events for sports teams or whatever. And every single time we got on a bus with the DVD player, people were like, oh, let's watch a movie. And then immediately it was like, let's watch Transformers, because it's like 3 hours long. It's like the first time I was like, oh, okay, Transformers. I like cars. Then I was like, oh, man, this movie's bad. Then the second time we're on a bus like a month later, somebody's like, let's watch Transformers. And I'm like, oh, come on, guys. And then the third time, it's like our senior trip. And it's like, guys, we're on a bus. You know what we should watch? Transformers. And I'm like,
Right.
if I have to hear Shia LaBeouf one more time.
Wiki.
And so, right. Yeah. Samuel Witwicky, and
Oh my God.
Bumblebee, stop lubricating the man. Like,
That's right. Yeah.
And by like the third time, I was like, I can't do it anymore. I can't watch Transformers on this little 7-inch screen and have no control over the volume. So
tough.
to this day, I've never rewatched Transformers.
Your friends
I'm
ruined
forced to watch it
Transformers
3
for
times.
you.
Yeah, well, I will just say that the end of that movie, when I'll just say is the hot girl saves the day. Like
Megan Fox,
bro, I just couldn't with that. I was like, are you kidding me? She saves everybody. I'm like, oh, I can't with Megan Fox.
she's beautiful, man, but she's too skinny, man.
But
For
she
me.
can't be
I mean,
saving the
for
day
me
in the
personally.
Transformers movie. I'm
Right, because
sorry.
she doesn't got that kind of might. First of all, to your point,
No.
But also,
and watch. Wait. It's actually worth watching again. Not for you, Joe. I'm not gonna put you through that.
no, not you, Joe, but me. I need
no.
more
Listen,
trunk
there
in it.
are no. There are scenes. Trunk.
I need more
it's
cargo
an
space.
Automotive. Yeah.
Yeah, as I'm saying, I need more cargo space.
But listen, if you watch it, she goes through some crazy scenes, and she it's like the desert or like this dirt and mud, and she pops up and she's like perfectly clean. I'm like, how'd that happen?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it was one of those things like every
I hate
16-year-old
that
boy was
stuff,
like,
Nick.
this movie's so cool, you gotta watch it. And then I watch it, I'm like, this is not a good movie.
Yeah,
So-
those little details do
You're a
stick
movie
out too.
guy.
Especially the more movies you watch, Nick. Those little details do stick out. I
Oh
just
yeah,
watched. Um, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. The English translation is "loves a bitch," and but it's Amores Perros. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Great movie, and they get all these little details right. Like they these close-ups of a homeless guy's. He's not really homeless, but he's kind of like down on his luck guy, and all of his nails are black and dirty. I'm like, dude, that's so
Mm.
good, so
Yes.
thoughtful. Didn't cost him any extra money really to do that. Like, but pull us into the story, make it real for us. I highly recommend that
Yes.
movie to everybody. Joe, favorite cheat day meal?
Cheat day meal.
Mhm.
Oh boy, I don't know if I can pick just one, but I mean I love desserts, right? So like anything sugary, I'm all over. But sugary breakfast foods, right? Pancakes, French toast, waffles, all three of
You a
them.
dinner? You're a
Like
breakfast for dinner guy?
occasionally, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but yeah, I mean pancakes with real maple syrup. I mean, back to the maple syrup
Oh
thing.
no,
I
maple
mean,
syrup's getting a
There
lot
it
of shout
is.
outs in this conversation.
It
Nick.
is. It
real
is.
maple syrup is so good versus the fake artificial flavored stuff. So I mean,
Yep,
real
I agree.
pancakes, real
That's what I
maple syrup. I
use.
mean, not good for you, but it is delicious.
Yes.
Oh, I mean, come on.
The other day I pleasured myself to the image of Mrs. Buttersworth.
It's Chris pushing buttons. That's all I got.
I don't know how I could resist. Nick,
Joe's like,
Nick,
what
don't
the
judge
heck,
me on
man,
that.
with these
How could I
buttons?
resist not playing that? Talking about all this.
He pushed the button.
No, Mrs. Butters, good old Mrs. Buttersworth, got me there like nobody's business. Okay, Joe, what is your favorite EV make and model?
EV, like electric car.
Yep.
I mean, I love the Lucid Air sedan
Ooh, my brother-in-law
from
has one of
Lucid
those.
Motors. Fantastic. I mean, the engineering's so cool. I actually just rented one on a vacation trip. Super cool. The one I drove was a little beat up, so like you kind of felt like the cracks were starting to show a little on it. But I think just from an engineering standpoint, fascinating car. Also, I mean, I know it's politically fraught with Tesla these days, but the original Model S, like the 2013, 2014 ones, just such a groundbreaking car. I have driven several. I love how it's just a big electric boat. I don't like SUVs. I like big sedans.
Yeah.
And to me, I kind of want to get an old beater Model S that can match in the same color of brown as my ambassador. Get an old brown Tesla to go with my old brown
beige
AMC.
and brown and champagne, the early ones.
Yes.
I had a 2014 blue Model S, and at the time, 2014 or 15. And at the time, they did have a champagne, like brown color like that. Model S, and they discontinued the color.
Yeah.
So it's out there
I
for
mean,
you, man.
Moving beyond the politics of the company and stuff, just I think it's a fun car. I like big sedans. So big EV sedans, the Lucid Air and the Tesla Model S, they're the only EV sedans out there, really, aside from a few small compact ones. So big sedans I love them. I would drive big sedans. Yeah, there's some Polestars, the Hyundai Ioniq 6. Yeah. So there's some cool designs out there. There's definitely some neat engineering and styling and stuff, and people inventing new things. But big sedans, I mean, Lincoln Town Cars. That's the another one of my favorites. I know they're not electric, but like if you watch my YouTube channel, it's a lot of the cars I drove for my YouTube series. They're all big old sedans. It's there's just something about them that they're special to me.
I agree, and they're both fast. S and Lucid Air are really fast. My problem with Lucid Air is, and they need to fix this, is if you're going to spend 110, you can't give me cloth seats. Just
it's little things like that. Like if you're going to spend 110 grand, you need nicer seats.
Come on, man. Come on. It is what it is. And last question, and then we will clear the set here. You can only pick one. 1972 AMC Ambassador, the car you own now. Or I give you a fully renovated 1967 Corvette convertible.
Well, if I had the 67 Corvette, I would just sell it and buy more AMCs. That's what I would.
Hey,
That's an
that's love
answer.
right
That's an answer to
there.
the question.
Yeah, that's
It's
love.
like, oh man, I could win a 67 Corvette. It's like, think of how many AMCs I could buy with that. I could buy a Gremlin. I could buy, I could buy
You'd have
Ambassador.
you'd have a fleet.
Yep.
But no, I love my Ambassador. It's like a love-hate thing. You drive it, something breaks, something goes wrong, you need to fix it, and you're like, but then once you get it fixed, you drive it again. You're like, when you're working on it, you're like, I hate this car, I want to sell it. And then as soon as you get it fixed again, you're like, oh man, I'll never sell this car. I love this car.
That's
So-
that's what
That's
that's
how
what,
I feel
what's
about
gone
my
away.
truck.
That's what's gone away.
Yeah, I got a
Go ahead, Nick. Say what you're
2005
gonna
Chevy
say.
Avalanche.
We're gonna say the same thing.
Yeah, 2005 Chevy Avalanche. I'm never getting rid of it. Never. Like, it's just not happening. And my wife is always like asking me like when I'm gonna get rid of it. She's like, but you sent it to the mechanic again. I'm like, yeah, and it drives great now, right? And she's like, yeah, until the next time. I'm like, yeah, until the next time.
Well, you kind of said what I was going to say, which is that what's lost today is when I was coming up with my first cars, it was mandatory to know how to change your own oil, change your own spark plugs, change your brakes, even like your brake pads at least, and change a tire. And I can just say reliably that my kids can't do any of those things. And I have 2 grown children, so 2 kids over 21. And then and one almost 18, and I don't think any of their friends can do it either, right? Like, it's just not required of you anymore, and that's how cars have changed, and that's why it's less personal to the kids today.
Well,
They
you
don't
can't.
even want to go out and buy a car cash like
No,
that.
you
like
can't.
you're
You
talking about,
can't.
Joe.
You can't do it anymore
Yeah.
with the
And you
latest
can't,
cars.
yeah.
They have
They'll
all these
stop you, yeah.
specialized tools and things that it's like. Remember, back in the day, you could get in there, open up your cell phone, right? You could take the battery out. You could do all sorts of stuff. Now that stuff is
Yeah.
locked down.
Right.
Lockdown.
Right,
So,
right,
yeah.
right. Well, here, so funny story on that. Remind me of old computers, right? We're talking about Apple products.
Oh,
now.
yeah.
You used to be able to service them. So, because our audience for the documentary is older, a lot of baby boomers and stuff, they really wanted DVDs. We weren't planning on making DVDs, and they were like, "Give us
Oh,
DVDs.
wow.
We want
Yeah.
physical media."
So for those listening,
And-
Joe has pulled up a DVD package of the
which
last.
these are
Independent Automaker.
available. Follow us on Facebook. You can order one. You can get your physical media.
I love that,
but,
man.
But anyways,
Hey,
so
look, that's great.
Hey man, count
We
me as
had
one
a
of the old
moment-
people, Nick. I still buy Criterion Channel and Albalos.
Man, but you know I've got. Well, listen, you know.
I mean, I like
I
physical
buy
media
VHS. I buy
Oh, yeah,
VHS,
yeah,
guys.
yeah.
Come on now.
Yeah,
So
I like it. We like owning it, Joe. Like, because
Yeah.
that's the thing people don't understand is like, yes, you get the convenience of digital, you get the convenience of cloud, but you don't own it. You stop
right, it could
paying that
disappear
monthly fee.
any minute.
That's right.
All that money you spent goes out the window. They got you hooked up.
Yeah.
So this you
Yeah.
carry with you.
So, but we had to make DVDs. Making DVDs in 2025 is one of the hardest things I'd ever had to do.
Oh wow.
I can't get software. I'm looking on the App Store. I can't buy anything. Roxio has something, but it doesn't work with my operating system because the last time it was updated was 2011.
Yeah.
I'm signing into an old laptop trying to get Adobe Encore to load, and Creative Cloud can't talk to Encore and it won't open, and it says I need a serial number. So finally, I dug out a copy of Creative Suite 5 that I had. That's from 2010.
That's the last time they did the non-cloud version. I still have that version on a disc somewhere in a drawer over here.
Yes. I dug out Creative Suite 5, but I tried to install it and it wouldn't work on. I have a 10-year-old laptop, but like the OS had been updated, and so it wouldn't work on that laptop. So finally, I take my wife's 10-year-old MacBook. I put a fresh solid state drive in it with nothing on it. I still have my Snow Leopard install disc from 2010.
Look at you.
I install a clean install of Snow Leopard, never connected to the internet, no updates, no nothing. Then I install Creative Suite 5. Then I open Encore and it works. And I build this entire DVD on a 15-year-old laptop with a 15-year-old piece of software disconnected from the internet. And that's the only way it would work. And then I made a disk image and then sent it off for manufacturing. But I mean,
indie ingenuity.
That's right.
Thank goodness we kept that laptop. But I mean, that's it's crazy. I don't know how the big studios do it if they have to make DVDs. I mean, it's the software doesn't exist anymore.
So we
It's
have
just
films at
crazy.
Gravitas, and they still make the DVDs, but they don't let us know the process. They do it from. I think what they do is they get the disc image from Bitmax, and then Bitmax sends it off to the manufacturer, same way you do, because they basically Bitmax is doing all of their, and a lot of these independent distributors,
Encoding.
all their
Yeah.
all their encoding, all of the sort of post work to make the movie fit if it's playing on Netflix, and then make it fit if it's playing on
Yeah.
PBS, make it fit if it's playing on a widescreen or standard TV. All that stuff's being done by companies like Bitmax and their competitors, and they make the
Yeah.
screen image. But I'm like you, man. Still have my 2009 MacBook Pro tower just
Yeah.
for stuff like this. Run and you can't update on that tower, so it's always running an old OS.
Right.
So
Right.
it's great. Anyway, this
So
is
Bitmax probably has some guy with a 20-year-old laptop, and his job is
Yep.
to make the DVDs, right? I mean, he's making those ISOs.
exactly
Yep.
exactly, and wishing the technology went away. Anyway, Joe, this has been as great as I thought it was going to be. I
Yeah,
know I'm
man.
speaking for Nick. I know I'm speaking for Papa Bear too. This was so much fun. I honestly think if we didn't have the segments, we would probably stay on this podcast for 8 to 9 hours.
Yeah, we
And
could keep
then,
talking.
by that time, I would be completely drunk, I'm sure.
Right.
But that would also be entertaining for the audience. But we just appreciate you so much. Can you tell
Oh, thank you.
everybody? Can you tell everybody where they can find you on the internet, find you on social media,
Yes.
see this documentary, see your work?
Absolutely. So you can watch the documentary right now. It's called The Last Independent Automaker. It's 6 episodes, and it is on YouTube for free. Just check out the YouTube channel Auto Moments, or just search The Last Independent Automaker. We also have more information on our website, which is lastindependentauto.com. Our Facebook page is the same thing, Facebook/ Last Independent Auto, or just go to the search bar and type The Last Independent Automaker. We post cool behind the scenes stuff there, updates on the series. I've been writing a series of articles for different car websites and sharing that information there about how we made the documentary. So lots of fun stuff there. So check us out. Like I said, Facebook, our website are the two main ones. YouTube, the channel Auto Moments has 10 years worth of my car videos on there. So, Lincolns, Cadillacs, other brands, as well as American Motors. And I mean, I guess if you're really dedicated, you can follow me on Blue Sky. It's just at Joe Ligo. I post car nonsense there, and bits and pieces, funny stories and things like that. But the main thing is follow us on Facebook. That's where the people are. That's where the crowds are that love talking about AMCs. We've got a great community there. The AMC community are great folks, a lot of fun. So as you saw, we did a memorial for Vince Gerace this week when he passed away, and it was overwhelming how much that man meant to so many people in the car world. And we're just lucky to be a part of such a great group. The AMC owners are great folks.
Yeah, I mean, you heard it from the man yourself. Go to Facebook, find him. Go to YouTube, find his YouTube channel, and follow, subscribe, support. This is a salt of the earth man doing filmmaking the right way in the indie space. And before we get out of here, we are in this episode like we do every episode, and that's with a segment called "Make It." So, Joe, you've had all this time to think about it. What does it mean to make it?
So when I first saw that question, when you posed that question to me at the beginning, I thought it was funny because to me, make it can mean two things. What does it mean to make it? The actual act of making film,
Yep.
right? And so to me, the first definition of make it is actually doing the job, right?
Yep.
Shooting, producing, writing, editing. To me, that's making it in terms of I'm making a thing.
Love it.
And there's been a lot of times the last few months where I just look at my wife and I'm like, can you believe it's done? Can you believe it's done? It's finished. Like, I can't believe it. And then as far as making it, like making the big time in Hollywood, I don't know. I think, it's a cop out, but whenever people ask like, what's your favorite project you've worked on? It's always the next one. Right.
Yep.
And I don't know. After this, maybe from then on, I'll always say that The Last Independent Automaker was my favorite project. I'm never going to top that again. I'm going to, I've peaked and it's all downhill from here. I hope not.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, for me, making it was being able to show this documentary to Vince before he passed away. Vince Gerace was one of the first AMC employees I met through Pat. Pat introduced me to him. And from the minute we met in 2013, I didn't even know I was going to do this project. Vince was kind to me. He opened his stories to me. He shared his memories with me. And then when I told him I wanted to do this project, Vince was 100% on board. He let us film in his house. He told his friends to trust us. People he called his former colleagues and coworkers and said, you really need to help these guys. And there was a period in 2020, 2022, somewhere in there where I didn't know if we were ever going to finish this project. The financial side of things wasn't lining up and the work was too much and it just felt like it was never going to get done. And Vince would call me to check in. And he would always, I'd answer the phone. He'd go, is this Joe Ligo, the famous filmmaker, the big star documentary man, and yeah, hi Vince, and he never gave up on us. He always believed in us. And he really, you're born to do this. You're so good at what you do, Joe, and I was scared we wouldn't get it done in time, and this spring when we finally finished it and sent all 6 episodes to Vince and he was able to watch it, it meant so much that we were able to keep our promise to him and, that he got to see it before he passed away. Cause it means a lot that we were able to share this with him. And so I think that to me, just the fact that we got to share it with Vince, to somebody who's helped us so much, that's making it for me.
Yeah, I can tell. We can hear it in your voice, man. Yep. Yeah, it definitely resonates, and we appreciate you sharing, man, and being so forthright with us on that. It's awesome. Love this, Nick. Yeah. Love it, Papa Bear. Guys listening to the podcast, again, reminder to rate us 5 stars on Apple and Spotify. Leave a review if you have an extra 30 seconds. Also, if you want a little bit more fun and you have the ability to do it, come find us on YouTube. Just search for The Make It Podcast. The in front of that is actually important. So The Make It Podcast, and we'll be the first thing that pops up. And once you find us on YouTube, you can start watching, and then please subscribe to that. If you're already watching this on YouTube, you know what to do. Subscribe, like, share with a friend. And for everybody that wants to reach out to us, you can find us on social media at _Make It Podcast, on X, on Instagram, and on TikTok. So all 3 of those places. And on Facebook, you can just find us by searching for The Make It Podcast. So with that, Nick, will you please leave us with the credo?
Of course. And this, again, was an amazing conversation. As Chris said, it did not just live up to, but it exceeded expectations. Joe, we appreciate you. We appreciate your stories, man. And we appreciate the great work that you're doing. So yes, I echo, go see it on YouTube because it's amazing. And it doesn't matter whether you're into cars or not. If you're into learning, if you're into good stories, if you're into excellent filmmaking, you're going to love The Last Independent Automaker. And with that, my friends, I will say to our filmmaking friends, family, fans, and followers out there, be better, be creative, be engaged.
And thank you for listening. Nick, talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. We'll do it again.
Papa Bear, Joe, appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
It's been fun.
Yep. Peace, everybody.
Yeah. All right.
Bye.
Peace.
Peace.